Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Low Season Traveller Insider Guides. I'm your host, Jed Brown, founder of Low Season Traveller, and this week we're taking a short diversion from low season destinations in order to bring you some inner workings of the European travel industry. This past week, I was invited to moderate a panel discussion at Europe's foremost aviation development forum in Valencia, Spain. AviaDev is an annual event where regional European airports and their tourism authority partners meet up with airline network planners to discuss and agree new air services. You could say it's where Europe's tourism flows by air are decided. Our panel was about the relationship between stakeholders in developing tourism and air services, and we learned that over-tourism actually provides a significant opportunity for regional destinations to increase their visitors as well as to broaden seasonality. Have a listen, see what you think.
Thank you very much. We're on the, I think it's officially, is this the graveyard shift now when it's starting to get towards the last session before lunch? So I'd like to think that we're saving the best till the last in terms of the panel discussions, but then I would say that, wouldn't I? So very good morning to you all. Our last panel this morning is concerned with the partnerships which drive aviation development. And we're going to look at two distinctly different types of partnerships in particular. First of all, we're going to look at the relationships between tourism authorities and their airport partners and learn how these collaborations are yielding some great results. And then we're going to take a look at how innovative organizations like Kiwi.com are forging partnerships with regional airports to effectively allow them to generate more connecting traffic with LCCs primarily through virtual interlining. So we've got a wonderful panel for you this morning to help us go through this. First of all, we have Michael Tmej, and I hope I'm getting the accent right there, who is the CEO at Košice International Airport, which is part of the Vienna and Malta airport family. Michael has witnessed firsthand the incredible effect of the partnership between Malta Tourism and Malta Airport in delivering increased air services over the years. He is now replicating this approach at Košice Airport, and we're also delighted this year to have been accompanied by Košice Regional Tourism at AviaDev. Louise Finnegan is the head of business partnerships with Tourism Ireland, the organization responsible for promoting overseas tourism to the island of Ireland. Louise is responsible for Tourism Ireland's cooperative access programs with air and sea carriers, ports, and airports. Giacomo Cattaneo is the director of commercial aviation at Milan Bergamo Airport, where he has spent the past 20 years. Responsible for growing the aviation business at Bergamo with all customers ranging from airlines to tour operators and freight carriers, Giacomo has been instrumental in the growth of this airport from being a small regional airport with just over 400,000 passengers in 1997 to becoming the third largest airport in Italy with an expected 13.5 million passengers in 2019. And last but by no means least, we have Zdenek Komenda, who is the Chief Business Development Officer at Kiwi.com. His experience includes time at large multinational corporations such as L'Oreal, Nintendo, and Amazon. And in 2014, Zdenek joined Kiwi.com, which was then known as Skypicker, and went on to help build the company up from scratch. He started as the first business developer in the company and drove the expansion, signing the top meta searches, including Skyscanner and Kayak. So we've got our panel on the stage. I would ask our panel to be seated, and let's give them the traditional welcome, if we may, please. So great to have you with us, guys. I would like to start, if I may, with Michael. You've got experience at a number of different airports, interestingly, all of very different sizes. And currently you're at Košice, so I guess, first of all, talk us through what's your approach to tourism stakeholders at Košice?
In Košice, we are the smallest airport in our airport family. We have only 550,000 passengers. And this is a completely different approach because the destination is not known in the world. This is our problem. So we are the best kept secret in the tourism industry. And this we have to fight, and only as an airport it would be impossible. So we are not strong enough. We need the tourism, this incoming tourism part of the tourist organization. And we are very lucky that with this AviaDev conference, our lady responsible for tourism in the city, first time she came with us, she shared this conference, And this was a very important step, which will copy what we have at other airports as a successful development. And this we start now in Košice as well.
And so you honed the model for this kind of collaboration at Malta, is that fair to say, or was it Vienna?
In all the airports we have, but it's quite different. You can imagine that not only the size, the passenger volume, we have in Vienna about 31, 32 million passengers, in Malta about 7 to 8 million passengers. But also the destinations are quite different. If you ask people in the world, a high proportion knows Vienna, whether it's for the white horses, the old buildings, whatever it is. But it's easy to explain where you are coming from. So they have to do other things. And together with the incoming tourism, they are focusing on long-haul traffic, for example, specific destinations, what they are focusing. And now, for the last few years, the low-cost boom, what was in Vienna very strong. In Malta, you have a completely different situation. Most people know Malta as a country because of the name, and it's an island. Small island where you have no competitor. If you want to go to this island, you have to fly to Malta airport. The leakage is limited. You have to go by ferry boat to Sicily. There is no car connection, no train as an island, so it's completely different. And they have to promote, to bring the people in winter, for example, to Malta, and to express what kind of advantages you have in this destination compared to others. And as I mentioned, in Košice, it's completely different. It's not known. So there is the focus on making it better visible and showing that we have, 18 UNESCO World Heritage sites in 1 hour drive around the airport and so on.
But when you have this, we're always talking about, and it's been brought up in a few of the panels that we've had today, we talk about the tourism, the importance of the tourism collaboration. And I always feel that sometimes we don't really get under the nuts and bolts of it. What I want to really try and understand, and from yourself as well, Louise, is in real practical terms, what does it look like? Who sets the targets for the different markets that you're trying to attract to the airports? Who sets the targets for the numbers of arrivals that you're looking for by air into your access points? Is it done by the airport? Is it done by the tourism authority? Do you meet up every month and have fixed strategic meetings on this? Talk us through what it actually looks like, this partnership that we talk about.
In all 3 destinations, we have the same picture. And it's like in partnerships. If only one is dictating, it's in very rare cases it's working. So the best is to make out the strategic targets together, because both sides have different approaches, but you have to streamline that the common way or the common direction is the most important. Both sides have to understand the problems or the challenges of the others, and then you focus on the common success, that both can share the success as well.
Is it easier, and this I think will bring you in on this, Louise, is it easier when you've got an island destination for a tourism authority to truly understand and get a grips with air service development? Because, as the guys in Tourism Australia always used to say as well, the only way you can get here is by air. You're not going to swim to get here.
Long swim.
So do the tourism authorities, generally, it seems to me that the tourism authorities that are responsible for an island destination, they get it a little bit more than the latter ones. Is it easier to have these kind of partnerships with the airports when you are an island nation?
I don't know that it's any easier. I think it's necessary. We invest over 32 million a year in our brand exercises. So that goes to the very high sort of strategic awareness and building awareness of Ireland as a tourism destination in overseas markets. And that's great. So we build the awareness and we create the demand, but then we have to work on supporting getting visitors and getting tourists to the island. And obviously that's where the collaboration comes into play between ourselves, our airports and airlines. So last year alone, we would have worked on almost 70 different campaigns in our overseas markets in partnership with about 22 different airlines. So it's a really important part where we go all the way from the strategic awareness and building brand Ireland and that's giving them the reason to travel, to actually working with the airlines and airports and saying, right, book your vacation now and come and see us now. So I don't know that it's specifically easier, but it's really vital from our point of view as an island destination.
And you've got quite, we talked yesterday at the tourism workshop. Anybody that wasn't there, you missed a great workshop yesterday. It was really good. But we talked about some of the unique challenges that you've got as a tourism authority, because it's not just one nation tourism authority. It's a little bit more complex than that. Just to sort of help everybody in the audience to understand your quite unique position and unique challenges, I would merit. Talk us through it.
Yeah, well, it would be boring if it wasn't a little different, wouldn't it? Tourism Ireland is the marketing agency that is responsible for promoting the entire island of Ireland overseas. And for those of you who are good in your geography, the island of Ireland comprises the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. So we're actually bi-jurisdictional. We receive our mandate basically from the Republic of Ireland government and from the British government. We have 9 international airports serving the island of Ireland. 3 of those are in Northern Ireland. So yeah, we're probably in a relatively unusual position in terms of working across jurisdictions. But honestly, it probably doesn't make that huge of a difference in terms of our day-to-day and how we go about doing our business. I mean, fundamentally, the business is still the same, and that is working with partners to bring visitors to the island of Ireland.
And, just for complete clarity, so how many airports do you have under your jurisdiction?
9.
9 airports.
There's a few more, but 9 active international airports.
Okay, 9 international points. So, you talked yesterday about, you said in your words, if you don't mind, you love all of your children equally. Now, I'm one of 4, and I can tell you, each one of us in my family, we know who the favorite is. We all know, and I know it's definitely not me, it's my older brother. But anyway, that's beside the point. Do you truly treat them all equally? And is it right to treat them all equally? I guess, look, Dublin is number 1 in terms of volume. Is it right to treat Dublin the same as it is to treat, Kerry or any of the others?
Well, as I said to you yesterday, I love all my children equally, yeah. However, our strategic focus and our strategic intent with Tourism Ireland is really to focus on regionality and seasonality. And there was talk of over-tourism earlier today and yesterday. I mean, we honestly see it as a problem of dispersion. And as I mentioned yesterday, once you get off sort of the main tourist tracks, a mile away, 2 miles away, they'd bite your arm off to see a tourist. So our focus is really to work on the direct regional access. And when I say regional, I pretty much do mean anywhere outside of Dublin. But we do work very closely with Dublin Airport, particularly for the ultra long haul destinations. We work more closely with the smaller airports for the nearer destinations.
So you would set the strategy for the overall target markets that Ireland is looking to attract in the next, sort of 4 or 5 years. And would you then communicate that directly with the airports? If I was to speak to the guys in Belfast, would they sort of know, look, with Tourism Ireland, these are our agreed targets for what we're looking for Northern Ireland?
Actually, we don't necessarily set targets specifically per airport or per route. We do have overarching visitor targets, and so we very much work to those. And the agreements that we have, the work that we do with airports and airlines is really the enabler of reaching those visitor number and revenue targets. So our targets are very much, we had 11.2 million visitors to the island of Ireland last year. So it's next year's target will be 1% or 2% above that. And then in revenue terms also, the revenue generated from visitors. So we set sort of the macro targets, and then we look to where our strategic objectives overlap with the airports in terms of their route development. And that's then the sweet spot where we get to work and really focus in on.
So, I mean, it sounds, Michal, like, really the challenge that a tourism authority like Tourism Ireland have is you've got a number of different sort of points of entry. For you, I'm going to put the question to you, is it much simpler and easier because, for the most part, Malta, you've got 1 airport, 1 tourism authority. Košice region, 1 airport, 1 tourism authority. Does the National Tourism Authority come into this as well? How does it work in that way?
In Malta, what is the great advantage is that the whole country is behind the airport, because immediately they see the effect what is going on. So passengers coming, and in the country, immediately you see the effect of more VAT and. So the results are clearly visible. This is not so easy in Vienna, not so easy in Košice. What helps is that all 3 airports are partly privatized. but still the state or state organizations have a part of the airport still. So this should be easier to understand. It's their own money, but not always it's the case. So especially in Košice in Slovakia, you have to convince the federal government, the regional government, the city, that it is important. And some of them, in the first moment, they say, you are privatized, so do whatever you like, but we don't want to support. So it's more work to convince them that is also in their pocket. So what is coming back goes also to the pockets of them, but not so clearly visible. In Košice, you have a lot of people coming by car, by train, and tourism organization has to cater them as well. For them, it's the same, more or less. And this understanding has to be built up.
And they have to treat all of those equally as well, I guess, all of the different methods. In terms of, again, in Ireland, when you've got 9 different airports, is there a risk of cannibalization? You know, is there an argument for, you know, Dublin has, how many passengers does Dublin have now?
18,
Putting you on the spot, sorry.
I think it's 18, but I could be wrong.
A lot of, you know, a good few
Sure,
million and increasing rapidly every year. I suppose that what I'm trying to get at is, you know, are a number of those passengers already coming into Dublin because, as it stands at the moment, they can't get into Cork or Shannon or wherever else for whatever reasons just yet, or they haven't got a service. Therefore, if you were to get those services in those regional airports and you get that dispersal, is that going to take away from Dublin? Is that a risk? Is that a risk that the shareholders see? Do they feel a little bit sort of threatened by that?
I don't necessarily think so. I think the pervading attitude is generally a rising tide carries all ships.
Yeah.
So, you know, if we're launching, for example, a new route from, I don't know, Kerry to Berlin, it's not really going to impact massively on the traffic going into Dublin. But it would have a massively disproportionate positive impact on the economic benefit to the region of Kerry. You know, I don't think, while the airports will compete with each other, the regional airports, Dublin is fairly well insulated against that. You know, there's strong demand into Dublin. We would be quite conscious, though, of working with the regional airports and trying not to get into a situation where, you know, we're supporting competing bids against each other, if you know what I mean. But then a lot of what we do, and I mentioned this to you yesterday, about 80% of the work that we do in cooperative engagement is actually on route retention. It's working on existing routes, which is really just as important. Somebody mentioned yesterday, I'm not quite sure who it was, the cost of losing a route and how much it is to try and get that back. So about 80% of all of the campaigns that we undertake and the investment that we make, and last year, just over 4 million we invested in air access cooperative activities. And that's matched by partners, so it's over 8 million in the marketplace. But about 20% of that was new route and 80% was existing.
Fair point. Giacomo, how does it work in Bergamo? Do you have relationships with the tourism authorities? Is this resonating with you, or is it a different situation in Bergamo?
It's very different, I would say. There is one national tourism entity in Italy called ENIT. Probably you have relations with them. And then there are other entities all throughout the entire Italy, both at regional levels, at local levels for the different cities, for the main cities in the region. So there is a multitude of different actors, all of them trying to stimulate tourism. But the way they do it is definitely not getting involved in activities like going out to the market, to airlines, trying to talk to airlines to stimulate the opening of new routes to Italy. That's something that we do as airports. Wow. So let's say the activities of these organizations at various levels is to try to certainly retain routes once they are there, or even more than retaining routes, retaining customers arriving from that specific country. That can be Germany or France or Ireland, even though normally it's more Italians coming to Ireland than vice versa.
We're fine with that.
But anyway, it's a beautiful country, by the way.
So really, the tourism authority is, I say merely, a support. It's just a support for what you're doing, but they're not instrumental in creating the strategy for it. Yeah. They're just, once you've done your work, they'll come in and sort of add support, but they're not instrumental in it. Is that
correct?
Fair?
It's correct. And they are instrumental, and let's say they follow their own policy, which is, for example, to have a specific focus on China, for example, in a particular period, and not necessarily related to engaging on new routes or engaging on retaining other routes. So it's a general mission that normally is linked not only with tourism, but also with industrial investments in both directions. So the route development it's very much in the hands of each airport in Italy. And so at least this is our example. That's what we do, and so that's why we take part to events. We take part to we try to organize meetings directly with the different airlines, and we are proactive, very proactive in our aim to get new routes, as well as retaining the existing ones, of course.
Yeah, for sure. And in terms of the budgets that may be available from certainly from the National Tourist Board, is this the same with the regional tourist boards? They would be the same. They wouldn't get involved in this.
Once again, it's very different in different parts of Italy. So there are areas in Italy where, and the islands are one of those examples. They rely much more than other parts of the country on tourism as one of the main sources for the local economy. So they have very specific budgets that are used also for market development or sustain towards airlines, joint promotion activities. In a region like Lombardy, where Milan is located, and Bergamo is one of the 3 airports of Milan is also located, that's the strongest area of Italy. So it's the wealthiest region of the country, that the majority of, it's not the majority of the Italian economy, because that sounds too pretentious, but it's a very powerful one in the Italian nation. And in that region, there are airports number 2 and number 3 of the country. Linate was number 4 until some years ago. Now they are going down, but still there are millions of passengers coming in, and therefore they decided that things are okay already, so they don't allocate budgets for sustaining specific routes or specific carriers.
Do you think in general that tourism authorities are struggling to move forward? I suppose for all of the 3 of you really, or some tourism authorities are struggling to move forward with the shifting dynamics of the global travel industry, let alone in Europe. You know, we touched on this yesterday, how, you know, not so long ago you go to World Travel Market and you speak to the Minister for Tourism or the CEO, and they're saying, you know, we want to meet the tour operators, that's what we're about. And when you speak to them about, you know, are you meeting any airline network planners? And they'd say, well, that's not our job. We don't get involved with that. That's the airport's job. And there's that lack of realization that actually, you know, in particular the low-cost carriers in Europe, that they are stimulating tourism demand like never before. And therefore, as a tourism authority, these guys have got the keys to opening the door to more visitors. Do you think that they're understanding, generally speaking, are they understanding that in Košice and in Slovakia?
Yes, they understand.
Do they get it?
But in Slovakia, you have to see that the budgets are much smaller, so there is the money is not available. So they understand how important it would be, but the money, if you compare it for the whole state, is not available. While in Vienna, you have enormous budgets, because this is enormous number of tourists, so there you can invest more for promoting those routes and those destinations.
And I suppose, as the home of one of the better-known low-cost carriers in Ireland, we'd be very well aware of the impact that they have and how they've, I suppose, disrupted the traditional model. We also have offices in 22 locations worldwide, so we're very well plugged in on the ground in terms of seeing what's going on and monitoring trends and changes.
And
my comment is somehow similar to the one in Košice, meaning that at local levels, the budgets involved would be too high for what they have. So they really are aware of what the development of local flights can bring. Yeah. If I just look at what has occurred in our area, I mean, it's obvious. I hope at least some of you had the chance to visit also Milan, but also the local nice city of Bergamo. And if you go up in the old city, it's a very beautiful ancient medieval city and town. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was just a place for a nice walk in the evening with hardly anyone around. Now it's full of tourists coming from everywhere of Italy and Europe. So it's evident what flights can bring, but budgets are always the thing that block the actions. Exactly. And at a national level instead, there are so many things to be promoted everywhere in Italy that's the reason why they don't get involved in specific routes from specific places.
Yeah. I've just got one more question before we move on, and I want to start talking then about the interlining and bring yourself in, Stenek. But we were saying before, there's been a lot of talk about the climate over the past sort of few hours, and indeed yesterday, as well as over tourism. And as we've been talking a little bit more about over tourism, I'm just wondering, what do you guys feel is the concept of over tourism and the growing concept of over tourism? Is that actually the single biggest opportunity which regional airports and regions have got over the next 10, 15 years?
And again, I touched on this earlier on. While Dublin is by far the dominant airport on the island of Ireland, we are focusing very much on a strategic and a sustainable and regional message, or a seasonal and regional message, probably more accurately. And part of that involves I mentioned we've spent over 32 million so far this year. We've just launched the autumn brand campaign. That focuses very much on, come here in the off season, in the shoulder season. So all of the imagery in that is people in woolly jumpers and rain jackets. We don't feature all of the traditional icons that people generally associate with Ireland. So we're trying to elevate the next layer of those and emphasize the fact that there are other things to do other than the ones that most people associate with Ireland. Yeah. And just as importantly then is the engagement, and we've talked about collaboration between airports, airlines and tourism authorities, but local engagement with industry on the ground as well. So again, when we are successful or when one of the airports is successful in winning a new route, we try and support that, particularly from a regional basis, with regional activity. So if I use the example of Kerry in Berlin earlier on, we'll engage with the local authorities in that area. We'll bring some of them out to Berlin to do a road show to try and convey to people what there is to see and do around Kerry. And it really is that element of working with the more local organizations to provide. We're giving people the reason to travel. We're helping get them there through cooperative programs, but then making sure they have a good time and go home and spread the word that, you don't have to go to Dublin necessarily. Yeah, you can go fly in or fly out, but you can also fly in or fly out of one of these other areas and basically spread the love. And so that really is our focus for the moment. And
Michal, for yourself, do you rub your hands with glee every time you see over-tourism mentioned, thinking this is going to play into our hands? Because Košice, you're not suffering from over-tourism, right?
No, not yet.
Yeah, so, therefore you're the perfect destination for those that are fed up of hearing about over-tourism. Yes. Will come to Košice and discover a new destination.
Yes. And this starts already, that we see from various countries some single tourists and groups, smaller groups coming to such places. So it starts. And this is our hope for the next years. While in Malta, for example, there is a problem of cruise lining ships. It was a clear strategy to base there 2 ships, and it's now a reality. But this means you have 2,000, 3,000 passengers leaving on one day, arriving by plane. There is no other way. And then they move through the city, because this is a part of this business. And there it's completely different situation. And in Košice, yes, we will take whatever we can get and whatever season we have.
It was interesting actually listening to Miguel either earlier on today or yesterday when we were talking about cruising, because I've got very, very strong beliefs on cruising and its contribution towards over-tourism, because for me it's just creating these huge surges. I guess that the big cruise ships need so many. There's a figure which is the Royal Caribbean cruise ships, the Oasis class ships, which take 5,000 passengers and 2,000 crew members. How many 737s would it take to fill that ship? So I get the opportunity from an aviation point of view, but it's fixed times And and if you're a point of that's if you're a point of embarkation or disembarkation. If you're just in the middle, it's an infestation at the same time. So I'm not really down with the whole cruise thing. We need to move at this point onto a different type of partnership, and that's one which you two have got, a very happy partnership, which has been well. I'll let you talk about it first, Giacomo, if you may. Talk to us about Bergamo Link, and about what it means to you, and about how it came about. How you discovered the opportunity for Bergamo Link.
Difficult to say one single origin of the idea, but the idea came from
It was your idea,
observing, observing how many self-connecting passengers were there in our airport. We grew from roughly the first time in our history when we did 1 million passengers was in 1999. 20 years later, this year, we expect nearly 14 million passengers. So we had some areas of growth in the meantime. And we have a position where, unfortunately, we don't have the sea, which is something that I really like when I'm in places like this one. But we have nearby the big city of Milan, other interesting cities to be visited, lakes, mountains. And we are located more or less in the center of Europe. So the development, thanks to a number of low-cost carriers, including one that is very familiar to Ireland.
We never mentioned them, do we? It's Ryanair. I don't know why.
The Ryanair is very big there, and we are the third base in their entire network. So they have a significant presence, and others are coming. And this year, eventually, also British Airways joined, Alitalia joined. So it's once again a very positive moment, and not just with low-cost carriers. So we have many flights going north, south, east, west. So it came natural that someone was trying to combine flights at more or less reasonable times of separation. Sometimes they're reasonable when they do them on their own. But anyway, normally reasonable, and so they were self-connecting. So we thought, by analyzing what others started doing in the market, let's try to see if there is a partner that can do that in a more professional and, how can I say, well-structured way. Ideally, by placing a guarantee in between, so that if something goes wrong with the first flight, the risk doesn't remain on the shoulders of the passenger, but it's covered by a guarantee. So we found online kiwi.com, starting with contacts. We ended up with contacted Zdenek and the team. And so a few weeks later, we started having the first conversation. This was more than 2 years ago. And it took a while before actually Bergamo Link was officialized. But that happened some months ago, and now we are very happy. In 2 words, Bergamo Link means that we created this brand. It's Bergamo Link powered by Kiwi.com. So we have it's one of those projects that they call the hosted stopover program. Correct?
Yeah,
okay.
Very well. I don't need to speak afterwards. Great.
So we have the Kiwi.com engine that does searches from A to C via Bergamo. That's what we want. And we added our own contributions to make the life of those passengers passing through BGY simpler by giving fast track free of charge to every one of them, or a dedicated counter which is inside one VIP lounge, landside VIP lounge equipped with check-in counter. So that's the place where they can re-check-in the baggage if they are flying with hold baggage. Yeah. And something else might come also in a short term.
And it's been working well for you, presumably. So what's been the effect of this? It's been 2 years now. What's the result?
2 years of working together, but in reality, by when we launched the brand Bergamo Link, it's less than 1 year. And we are going, in this period, we are at a level of about 300 passengers per day in average. So it doesn't change the overall volume of the airport, but it certainly contributes.
Retail?
In retail, of course, because that's actually one of the projects. I was trying to leave you something to say, but
Sorry. No, come on. I was going to say, well, yeah, but presumably retail's a big up.
Yeah, sorry. The laugh about retail is that very soon this passenger buying on Bergamo Link will receive also a 10 euro voucher to be used in airside shopping, provided that they spend at least a minimum amount of money. Sorry. This is aimed to stimulate clearly the willingness of this passenger to purchase at airside shops.
So Zdenek, talk us through it from your side. This is obviously a project that you've been working on for some time. And, you know, we spoke obviously in our diligent preparation before this. We had a great call and we were talking through the different programs. And I'll be honest, I genuinely do use kiwi.air.com all of the time. And I wasn't as familiar with this because that's something that I've had a challenge with. I do fly low-cost carriers an awful lot. That's the way I roll. But I always have that hesitation on, you know, if it's two different low-cost carriers via somewhere, I'm like, oh, that's risky. And you were telling us how, you know, you've got this sort of guarantee in place, but you were saying you've also got different levels of virtual interlining. Talk us through the evolution of this.
Yep. Thanks for getting the chance to speak. Great program, thanks. So we started the virtual interlining 8 years ago when, without no travel experience or knowledge, we started combining carriers like Ryanair. I said it for the first time here.
There you go.
And Wizz Air, for example, and the rest. And of course, 7 years ago, when we started, we just didn't know that we would be able to talk to airports and even create cooperations with airports in order to make the virtual interlining itineraries better for the customers. Because every time we saw, okay, we just combine the data, we do the booking, we provide the guarantee, and that's it. But of course, the longer we are in the business, the deeper we get in understanding and trying to optimize the ways how the passengers, what they book, how they behave, the patterns, even before or even during the journey. And it got us to the idea to start talking to airports in 2017. And then I think it was the right timing for both parties. We've got a message from Giacomo, and I would say that Bergamo Airport is a great example of really growing and hungry airport, secondary airport, that doesn't wait for approvals from the state owners or through the organization, but is really able to move quickly, and that was the case. So even though we've been talking for 2 years, we of course it took us some time to launch it and develop the whole program, because we started basically from scratch. We didn't have even any airport specialists. Now we have a team of 5 people within the business development team. And Bergamo was really the first airport with hostess-to-all program that we started promoting. Because the one thing, and there were some attempts of the other airports historically that tried to do virtual interlining and even provide a guarantee at the airport, paid by the airport, for example, or by other tech providers, but they lacked the volumes. The volumes in order to have, and in order to pay for the fast tracks or even for the special desks at the airport, we need volume. So if we transfer 300 passengers off-season at Bergamo, this is probably good volume to start thinking even a little bit further what else we can offer to that bunch of travelers that are spending time, which they wouldn't spend maybe if they would be flying over some other airports.
The guarantee interests me. Are you allowed to sort of reveal, how much does that cost you every year? Is the uptake on that very, very significant, or is it actually, better than you'd hoped for?
It depends on the season, of course. So the summers, we are practically bleeding, if I can say that like that, because of course we have bookings that were booked or paid months in advance for, let's say, 100 euros or 200 euros. But in case of the guarantee, when it happens, that's most of the time during the journey, during the time of the travel, and then when the passenger gets stranded or is left by the connecting airline, for example at Bergamo Airport, we need to purchase a new flight at that day or next day to the final destination. So of course then the ratio between the profit and the cost, the additional cost with the guarantee is significant. But of course then off season when all the airfares are much lower, then the guarantee cost is lower as well. But of course the model is built in the way that it's profitable, and we've been profitable for years.
So is the guarantee and that peace of mind, is that the most important aspect to virtual interlining? Or is it more than that? Is it the experience at the airport? So, you were sort of saying there at the lounge on landside, they can, have the fast track and all of this kind of stuff. Is it a mixture of the two, or is there any element that's more important? And then what's the next step? You talked before about I suppose the next iteration of this is what you're doing in Budapest. Talk us through that next sort of logical evolution of it.
Yeah, I would say that the guarantee is the most important thing for the mind of the travelers or buyers, in order, if they know, because you've been using Kiwi.com and you haven't known about it, so we need to work much better on the product marketing from our point of view to the B2C customers. But the guarantee is really the thing that shouldn't let the people think, okay, there is the standard interlining or the standard combination with legacy carry, and there is some secondary virtual interlining where I'm not sure whether I would be able to get to the final destination, if the company or the provider is going to take care of me, how, and so on and so on. So there's a bunch of questions that we try to answer before actually the purchase happens. That's very important. So we try, and maybe we should do much better, to inform all the customers that are purchasing the virtual interlining, this is what you get in case there is some disruption.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Then, of course, if we are able to make the journey, for example, shorter in cooperation with the airlines in order to minimize the MCT, not to spend at the airport 6 hours, even though it could be good for the retail revenues for the airport, but create combinations with maybe only 2 hours stopover because of we are able to handle the bags faster, we are able to offer the fast track, we are able to do X amount of the other things at the airport, and give the passenger more time, more free time at the airport. Still, he doesn't need to have 6 hours. He can purchase a beer or a coffee or do some tax-free, duty-free shopping even within those 2 hours. So, to continue with the question, Bergamo was our first airport which we launched in the full scale, which is very visible. So we let our customers know at the time of search, booking, and after booking about the Bergamo link offer, what is awaiting for those passengers at the airport. We launched Nice as well, so that's more or less the same concept. But
can I just ask that? Sorry. Can I just ask that? Was that Nice's approach to you, or was that you using your data identifying Nice, actually, this would work well for?
Yeah. Well, Nice contacted us on their own as well. So, of course, as we have currently around 35 different partnerships within the region mainly, then of course we are known and lots of airports approach us directly. Yeah. But of course we sit on lots of data that we even provide to the airports, and then we can specify, okay, these airports, we need to talk to them, we need to launch this kind of service, this and this and this. So there's like both way how we handle the partnerships. But the Bergamo link is great because it's really visible to all the passengers, and we are providing some freebies to the passengers in order to choose the combination or the itinerary via Bergamo rather than via other airports in the region, for example, if there are like cheap fares as well. What we are trying to do, or what we launched with Budapest Airport, it goes a little bit beyond. So there's going to be also hosted stopover program promotion. So to all the passengers flying via Budapest, we will also let them know that there is a free fast track, and there is also a special Kiwi.com customer support desk that is run by the airport in order to help all the passengers that are left there or that experience the disruption of missing the connecting flight. So there are people, physical people on the floor helping them in order to catch the flight, which would maybe be missed because of the gate would be closed, so they are helping the passengers there. They are able to connect them directly with our customer support, which is very important to find for for speeding the delivering the new flight ticket or boarding passes to the passengers, and of course they can like improve significantly the customer experience at the spot of when the bad thing or bad experience can happen, which can influence the experience from the airport, but also from the Kiwi.com service.
So you get off your first flight, you look for the Kiwi desk, you can recheck in, check in your bags again. How's it work?
Right now, there is no check-in bag, so we will work about it on that later on, but there is more like just a help desk in case something gets wrong. Later on, we will be able to provide even some upsell of even the services at the airport, so getting a cheaper fare for the lounge, for example, if they would need to wait there longer, or helping them with finding the accommodation if they need to stay over the night, and so on. Regarding the bags, we are working with Stansted Airport. I think it was publicly announced in the past as well. And this goes, again, like one level higher in the complexity and in the service to the customer regarding the virtual interlining. And basically, what we are missing with virtual interlining today is the check bag. Because today, if I would be flying from Brno, which is our city where we are based, to Bergamo, and then continue to Rome, for example, with a check bag, I need to recheck the bag at Giacomo's special desk at the VIP lounge at the land side. It's this action takes, of course, time to the passenger, can get some higher nervous level in case there is a low time for doing this physical work. So we were trying to figure out how to actually do the virtual interlining bags, how to move the bags from origin, from Brno to Rome, without the physical action, without any physical touch of the passenger at the stopover airport. We found a solution. We are testing it at Stansted Airport, and that's basically that I would check the bag in Brno. I would load the special Kiwi.com bag tag to the app that we created, which shares that information with the ground handler at, for example, at Bergamo Airport, and then by this physical tag, the airport staff, the airport ground handlers would recognize this is Kiwi.com bag. It doesn't go to the carousel sorting area, but we need to do some action. And then there is again like an app that we developed for the ground handlers. They would retake the bag and send it to the connecting flight without touching and still being online, informed to the passenger. Okay, the bag got rechecked. It's in the plane. You can enjoy coffee, free coffee, or a shopping spree at Bergamo or the other airports.
So it's not really that. Once you get to that stage, it's not really virtual interlining. That is just interlining, isn't it? I mean, if from a customer point of view, if I'm checking in once, I've got my boarding cards, and I'm not going to see my bag till the end point. That's what interlining is, isn't it?
Yep, it is.
Super. I've just been given the nod that we're going to have to start wrapping up. But before we do, does anybody have any questions for any of our panelists on either the collaboration between tourism and airport stakeholders, or indeed on the interlining side of things? Must have done a fantastic job, guys. We've covered it all off. I think we'll take that as a compliment. Final question then, if I may. Again, over the last few sessions, we've been talking about a lot of challenges that both the aviation and the tourism industry faces. And I was initially going to say, the last question will be, what's the biggest challenge that you're facing right now? And I thought, you know what? If with the last session, let's actually talk about what's the one thing that you're feeling really good about at the moment, either in the industry or in your own business. What's the stuff that actually, this is pretty good at the moment? Anybody want to give us what they're feeling good about right now?
I was just getting ready to answer what the biggest challenge was. Wow, you've caught me.
There's nothing to feel good about.
No, honestly, we've a huge amount of really good stuff going on, and I will say, I think really positive from our perspective is the openness of airlines in general to want to work with us. That's really, really positive. I mean, we are living in extraordinary times with Brexit, with so many things going on, and there's a lot of uncertainty, and that affects our potential visitors in terms of the sentiment in wanting to travel. Our biggest markets by volume would be Great Britain into Ireland, the whole island, and France and Germany. So there's an uncertainty around Brexit, but the fact that we've so many partners that are wanting to work and address that's really great.
They're all willing. And they're all willing, ready and willing. Anybody else feeling good about anything right now?
Yes,
Michal?
I'm feeling good that the Christmas season is coming, and we are a small airport family with about 130 people, so small. But what I really like is that in this quiet airport, that people find, and we tell them, and we found together, that they have a smile for a passenger, for example, at the check-in, and this is a very nice feeling, and that for the Christmas party of our company, all people available came. So not one was not showing off.
Nice.
And this is very nice.
Very good. Giacomo?
My comment, sorry for that, it's a little more business and less Christmas time.
That's okay. That's okay.
But certainly we are living the moment when, after the Expo in 2015, Milan and the entire region has seen, let's say, an upsurge in visibility, visitors, knowledge in the world. So it's a very positive moment for the region, generating more tourism, and also the industry is moving very well for both import and export. So that's very good, and clearly we benefit being part of that area and that system.
Very good. And finally?
And finally, I feel really good that finally virtual interlining is a term that is accepted and wanted by the whole travel industry. So we spent lots of money for all the promotion, for all the conferences over the 6 years that we've been attending and sponsoring and speaking at. But finally, all the airports know what is virtual interlining. Mainly, more importantly, the low-cost carriers are interested in virtual interlining, legacy carriers even tourism boards, the customers. So I would say that we did a good job in promoting it and really finding the right place for virtual interlining in the travel market.
Should have trademarked it as well.
Yeah, we were thinking about it. Yeah.
Mystery. Ladies and gentlemen, could you please give our wonderful panel a nice big round of applause? Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So there you have it, an inside glimpse into the workings of our industry at the highest level. What do you think? Do you prefer travelling to or from regional airports? Would you book 2 different low-cost carrier flights to get to your destination? Let me know your thoughts. Next week, I travel to World Travel Market in London as we begin the drive for tourism and hotel partners on the new Low Season Traveller website, which will launch in February. We've already secured an amazing prize for our launch draw, courtesy of the official tourism authority of Visit Antigua and Barbuda, who have kindly offered to provide us with a luxury holiday for 2 to Antigua, including all flights, transfers and accommodation. Keep tuned to this podcast over the coming weeks for more details on how you can win this dream holiday. So that's all from me. Have a great week, stay warm, and don't forget to share this podcast with your friends, family and social networks. Our content will always be free for everyone, as we believe that travel is better without the crowds.